Welcome to the Startup Grind Detroit. I'm honored to be here with you all. I'm your host, Faris Alami, and today we have some amazing entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, celebrating International Women Month with us, and can't wait to introduce them and have them just give you a little brief about who they are and what they do, and enjoy the conversation about their own journey as entrepreneurs. So we're lucky because we decided to do something different this time and to bring a woman from multiple continents. So we got representations from Europe, South America, and North America. And with that, maybe we could start with Europe since it's a later time, and then we'll work our way back to the US. So maybe you could tell them a little bit about who you are, Danae, and what you do and where you are, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So my name is Danae Vara. I'm locally right now in Barcelona, Spain. That's where I live. And that's where I just launched our startup. It's a fintech called Gocleer, focused on mobility insurance. And it's been a journey. We've been doing this for the last 2 years. And I co-founded this company with a co-founder who is a male co-founder as well. So we have a couple, let's say both of us are in this journey together. And right now we have a team of 16, which I'm very happy to tell that we have 13 nationalities and half of our team is female. So this is something that's very important for us as well, that we've been working towards it. And it's not quite that easy on a tech and insurance world. So, yep, we're focusing on growing and market fit and expanding our business here in Spain. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Melania?
Yeah, thank you, Faris, for the invitation. My name is Melania Sanhueza, and I am from Santiago of Chile. And I'm the founder of Teacher, which is a social collaborative platform for high school teachers or K-12 teachers, where they can share and find meaningful learning experiences in order to up-level or transform their classroom into the 21st century. So this is a really powerful invitation for me because education can transform the world and reduce the gender gap. So this is what we're celebrating here.
Thank you. And we're having some technical difficulties. So our third guest is, although you might not see her on the screen, she's on the phone with me right here. And we just called her in through my phone so she could be at least with us. So Sherri, would you mind speaking up?
Thank you for your graciousness with my technology today. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm going to focus. My company is, I have a Rise consulting company, and one of my largest clients is with the National Arab Orchestra, and it is a multinational orchestra, and we create music that focuses on the Arab culture, but the intent is to provide the opportunities for Arab people to experience their culture and share it through the generations, and also give people who are non-Arab the opportunity to get to know the beauty and richness of the Arab culture in a very organic way. We started 10 years ago, and the orchestra is a mix of men and women. And we just had our major concert with 3,000 people on Saturday. So we're growing like crazy, and we do have an educational component because we believe education is critical to building community and understanding amongst all peoples.
Great. Thank you, Sherri. And even with your, I know you have multiple hats. So your other hat, would you mind sharing just what is your business that you also run?
Sure. So I have two other companies. The one is it's a consulting company, and I'm a CFO a chief financial officer by training. And I worked in the corporate world for years and always wanted to have my own company because I saw that small business, and my focus was women, really needed the guidance and expertise and skill sets of getting their financial foundation in order, because they were really good at the product or service they provided, but maybe not so good at setting up knowing their numbers. We like to say, know your numbers. So that's one company. And then the other company is called Good Fat Life, and it focuses on health and wellness and lifestyle, living a lifestyle focused on self-love.
You're a publisher, right? If I understand it
Yes,
correctly?
yes. We have a magazine. We have a magazine and podcasts and workshops. So a whole range of lifestyle, but it centers around the magazine. We like to say we bring the magazine to life.
Cool. Thank you so much. Clearly, each one of you has so much to offer, and I appreciate your being modest with your introduction about what you do, because I've been lucky to actually have worked with a couple of you here throughout different programs, and to see the depth that you have and the knowledge that you could share. And I feel like this is why I'm, want to bring this up. You're already busting some myths or taboos about women just by being who you are and doing what you're doing. And I'll start with the first question, which I think is somewhat relevant to our conversation today, because we're celebrating, obviously, International Women's Day. When you hear that, or Women's Month, when you hear that, what does that even mean to you? And we could start with anyone. We'll start with Melania, and then we'll go to.
So I guess that this is an opportunity actually to visualize women's work and women's worth in society. And as you mentioned, to break some taboos around women and around the position of women in society. So I guess that this month is that all about how we can see women and put women in the right place and give them the chance to speak at the table to break these taboos.
Thank you.
Yes, I totally agree. I think it's a month and it should be a year of normalizing. I mean, half of the population of the world are women, but we're not visualized and we're not represented in equal numbers around many different aspects. Of course, there are some others that women are more represented than male, and that we could help to balance both ends. And I think it's also an opportunity for us who are, I'm grateful and I feel lucky enough to be part of this journey and to be reference to next generations coming behind us, to see someone already done it, and that it's a normal space for them to be opting to be somewhere in these positions as well.
Cool. Thank you. Sherri?
So when I think about this, when I started in business, it was, I was in the finance, I was all male. So I would be like one or two women and 2,000 men in a room. And it was, so the world has come a long ways, women in business has come a long ways since then. I guess, we've come a long ways, but the other part is, I agree. I would like it to be where we don't have to have a month of Women's Month. It's just the way the society is. It's inclusive of everyone. And Faris, I would have to say, I love the fact that you have brought us together, because it's so exciting to be able to work with other women that are doing amazing things, and we don't have to be exclusive, but we can just take this meeting, this gathering, and move it forward with what's possible, because we can.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'm the odd one here, right? I'm the guy here. So, but I'm comfortable being a minority all the time. So that's all I know how to operate. If I was a majority, I don't know what I would do. So it's better to be a minority, I think. So thank you for sharing that. I agree. I think women has so much more to offer than what they get boxed in to be. And I think part of it is just human nature. Unfortunately, once we're accustomed to habits, it becomes hard to break them. And it takes generations upon generations to really break those kinds of habits. With that, it would be awesome to just hear from your perspective, and you kind of touched on it, Sherri, with the culture of at least the finance world. I'm interested in a higher, just maybe like one notch higher level of what is the culture in the country where you are towards women in the fields that you're in, or in general, either way. That would be very interesting to hear. And I think Sherri kind of like touched on it, like this is a male dominated finance world and she's 2 out of 2,000. That's a pretty small number. And each one of you, by the way, represent something different. You're all somewhat in the technology world somehow, right? Because you have to use software to do QuickBooks or, numbers, and to, Melania with the teaching online, and with, with Danae, Danae, am I saying correctly? Okay. Correct me, please, if I keep mispronouncing it.
No worries.
So with what you're doing with the insurance, it feels like these are really 3 places where you don't even see women. And here you are, right, doing amazing things in these fields. And hopefully this will, broaden your touch and broaden your cast to what you're doing. I'm interested to hear how is that working, not working, with the impression of the culture in the country. And I'll let you start, whoever wants to start this time.
I maybe like you, because I was always the minority in the room. It's just normal. I don't honestly think about it. It's not part of consideration. I just am more. I think it's been more of my own personal holding back, just nature, rather than because I'm a woman. So I feel like in the United States anyway, that the opportunities are there if you just go and step into them. That's been my experience. So my issue is more, I would hold myself back rather than somebody else was holding me back.
It's interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Actually, I just during this past year, I wrote an investigative work, a whole document, a paper on female entrepreneurship and positioning in the fintech space, which is actually my space. So it's very interesting. I have a lot of data here to share, and I focus my investigation in Spain. So that's where I can talk about. And I actually did the work I did it on different areas, like analyzing the different sectors, the tech, the finance, and these areas, which are basically like we just mentioned, very male dominated and very structured. They're all ways of working, and they're very structured in a more, let's say, patriarchal way. So they have this length and this growth and that you have to go through now to achieve certain levels, which are very low in C levels or director levels. But then there is something very interesting that happened, and it hasn't happened that so far away, so long ago, let's say, which is the fintech area, the fintech, including insurtech, proptech, and these kind of new sectors. And the thing is, what I've been analyzing and doing interviews with a lot of entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs and founders, is that there's a lot of talent there. There's a lot of people who come from the tech world, who come from the insurance or the finance or whatever area of this aspect, female, and that they just might not fit on the corporate ladder and the ways, because of fitting it with our own other ways of living, our mindset or our family needs or whatever we want to envision our lives like. So what I've identified is that a lot of women actually took a step forward and co-created or created their own companies. And that's why actually there's these numbers here in Spain that are so high. In the fintech area, 2/3 of the employees on the fintech area are women. So it's actually moving the balance towards the other way. But it's not because of faith or something that happened. It's because us women, we took a step forward and said, you know what, I'm done with the system. I'm done with how things are being done. So I want to create an impact. I want to create a change, and I'm going to build my own company. And while doing that, I'm also empowering other women to be not only employees, but also mid-level directories, C levels, and other kind of levels that you want this balance, right? So at least my perspective on the side here in Spain is that there's a lot of female power there. There's a lot of female talent that it's being really well used, but we are still a minority. We're still only 16% of the startups founded in Spain have a women co-founder. So that's still a minority, even though in my little niche, we're majority. But this is something that's changing, and this is not happened in 20 years ago. So there's changes there.
Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, in my case, what I've seen, especially in education, and I believe this kind of repeats worldwide, or at least in North and Latin America, is that we see a lot of teachers who are females teaching in the classrooms, and especially in kindergarten or preschool. And the school principals and the school's director, right, they are males. So it's kind of curious why the teachers, female teachers, are in the classrooms and who are running the business are the males, that they don't have the experience with the children. So that's kind of what I've seen so far. I've seen also a lot of school principals who are females, but it kind of worries me the ratio of the school principal versus the ones who are teaching in the classrooms, and also what they are teaching in their curriculums, because there's also like a gap in what we're teaching in terms of the authors we're giving our students to read, that everything is like male represented. There's less documents that we can read that are female created. So the boys are more aware of male creating great things, but not female creating great things. And this like replicates over time. So I don't know if I expressed that right.
That's interesting, Melania. Yeah, no, I got it. That's very interesting, actually. Anybody would like to comment before I go to my next question? Because I wanted to comment.
Yeah, I would just a note there, and I really love what was mentioned before, like coming from the financial world. Yeah, it's true. We women are maybe because of culturally or whatever, we're not taught the numbers, and you can see that with what with Melania's just explained. No, the guys are managing the business, the women are doing the teaching, right? They know about the teaching, but they might not be taught how to be not a leader, but do the numbers. And I can totally relate with what was mentioned before, like when you start going on this journey, there's so many numbers, like, I don't know, cap table and whatever other, you know, like startup things, numbers and financials, that if you don't come from the world, you're totally lost there. So I think helping bring this knowledge to more girls will help them also have the tools to take this a step forwards. I think it will make a change. So I would definitely love to join one of those sessions.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, I loved what both of you had to say about how things are changing, or exposure. And it's been my experience when women know the numbers, it can be so scary. But once they have the exposure, it's not scary at all. It's empowering, and then it makes the next steps possible. So,
yeah. Thank you, Sherri. People are going to be so confused, Sherri, when they watch this, because it looks like me there, but I'm silent, and then there's sound of you coming out.
I am so sorry, but
no, this is actually going to add
do,
some fun to our program, yeah. So I appreciate it. I actually wanted to go back to Danae's point, because I was really fascinated. Did you say 16% of female women entrepreneurs receive funding in Spain?
No, it's only 16% of the startups founded in Spain have a female co-founder. And the numbers is that only 2% of the startups receive capital funding. Wow. So it's like There's no money, like, and the numbers are amazing. Like startups that have at least one woman in the founding team, the statistics say they receive 30% less funding than all male founding teams. So it's like, what is happening here? I mean, and of course it has to do also a lot with the difference in representation in many levels. Of course, if you go to a fund and that fund is all male driven also, and there's no parity there, there's no female VCs or analysts or whatever, it cascades down as well. So
yeah, no, okay, that makes me feel a little better, because I'm like, in the US, it's about the same. About 2% of female founders receive funding from VCs, unfortunately still. But it has been moving up, and there's a rise of VC funds are female started and female focused. And I think that hopefully will start tipping these numbers a little bit more to the positive. And it's somewhat depressing to always hear how just because you happen to be a female founder, you're getting 1/3 of what everybody else is getting. So hopefully that will change as we continue, not only this conversation, but all the conversations that are happening around equity and equality and diversity and inclusion and things of those natures. So glad to hear that there's at least a conversations on it. Sherri, were you going to say something? I thought I heard you, but I cut you off, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. It's I did want to confirm the numbers. So thank you for. I couldn't tell if it was 60 or 16, and that's very interesting, Faris, that it's the same in both countries. I'm curious about South America. Is it the same there as well?
I don't know. I didn't do any research there, but I should have. Melania,
yeah,
do you know the
no.
answer?
It's just something to know, and I just want to again express gratitude that you put this conversation together, because it's kind of like, oh my gosh, we have so much work to do, ladies, and lots of possibility.
Yeah, I don't know really about the number, but I did want to express that at least in my country, which is Chile, the government is making a huge effort in providing capital, seed capital, growth capital to founders in general, but they also have specific programs for female entrepreneurs. So it's easier for us to access those funds, and that's mainly why I created my business. So I guess the government plays a huge role in reducing this gap, and not only VCs or privates. This is like an effort of all.
Policy making always helps, changing directions and having a policy that supports that. Same in the US. I mean, the SBA has all kinds of programs for women. The Michigan Manufacturing Advanced programs have it. The Export Council has it. There are all kinds of efforts, more now than ever before. They used to exist before, but they were like, that little program that's in the bottom of all the programs. And if you ask for it, they'll undust it and show it, but it feels like it's now more front and center, which is really good. And in the US, I think it's about the same. 30% maybe now are women funding tech entrepreneurship with companies. The percentage has been growing up, especially the last 5 years. I think it used to be a little bit less than 20%, 5 years ago, and now it's a bit over 20-some% to now 25%. And that's a key. There are so many studies, and they keep hovering about the same numbers. Some might say 25, some might say 28, some will say 31. I'm just going by the average of what I remember seeing. So that's fascinating. Great. Well, I would love to hear a little bit more now about where do you think you want to see women, that you feel like there's still, opportunity for us to see more women in a certain spots? Where do you, from your perspective, from your own journey, where would you like to see more women play a role that are not playing it today, or playing a smaller role in it today? Well,
I've seen it in different roles. There's a lot of women in the workforce. Don't get me wrong, it's not like there's no women in the workforce, but I've also seen it throughout the years, and I participate actively in groups for growing professionally, in women's careers, that they reach a certain point where it's like you are like a mid-level kind of a director or manager, and then there's like a block there, they can't scale that up. So I would love to see more women in higher places and taking decisions in C-levels and board members. Board members, we are even less. I think it's like less than 1% women in board members, and that's where the numbers are taken, are taught, and that's where decisions are taken, basically. And then they scale down, no? Then it goes to the C-level, the C-level explains to the team, and then to the managers, and blah, 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 blah. And then it comes to where the women are right now, taking decisions and managing teams, because it's been said that women are very good with people, but hey, there's also people on the top part of the ladder, no? So no, it's not only on the lower part of the ladder. So I would really love to start seeing this presence of women growing in the different kind of levels. And I think that the more exposure you have, at least that was my experience, the more exposure you have because you were growing professionally, you can start to understand different things that you were not aware of. And when you're sitting on a C-level, you see other conversations. Where you're sitting on a board table, you're seeing other conversations. And this exposure needs to happen. But of course, it just doesn't happen magically. And it happens a lot of times based of merit and good numbers that you provide. But I think it's also part of our responsibility to put women in those places and give them these options and these possibilities. No?
Thank you for sharing that. Go ahead, Sherri.
With what Danae just said, I totally agree. But and the way I think the way that it happens is to have to have forums like this, conversations like this, and to continue to, because it gives women the opportunity to be exposed and to build their skills so that they can be ready for those opportunities. But the other part, kind of what we were talking about earlier, is women entrepreneurs, is women just saying, hey, it's not happening in the corporate world, so I'm going to go make it happen myself. And one thing I have noticed, that women are wonderful at supporting the success of other women, just through the networking and collaboration process. So I think it's both. It's going to be getting more women in the top and in positions of power to make things happen, but it's also going to be providing opportunities for women that are just getting started or moving up to have the opportunities to step into ways that they can grow and expand kind of organically.
Thank you for that, Sherri. Melania?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Danae and Sherri just said. And just to focus on the part that we are the ones that are in the position of power right now. So we are the CEOs of our companies, we are the founders, and we are the ones who can take the lead and gather more female entrepreneurs to join us and to put them in the position they deserve, not only because they're female, because we have a lot to bring and we have a whole different set of capacities than men. I'm not saying to take off men, but we can bring the two sides together to bring a more powerful entrepreneur, a more powerful economy, and to make everything better for everybody. So that's the main thing for me.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And just wanted to, I run a program for high school kids that teaches entrepreneurship and global trade and culture. And one of the things we learned through the process, and I think this is to Danae's point earlier and sharing you, Melania, is although it's nice to address it today to make sure that there are women in these position of power, the challenge is they're not exposed to these ideas at an early age. So therefore, those dreams don't become, reality, or those things don't become in people's mind, and the pathway that they're being drafted for, there becomes different road. So the earlier we could expose them to these ideas and have them see that women can do whatever role they would like to be. I have not really met any that did not qualify to do whatever jobs they wanted to be, at least not yet. So therefore, we as a society, it would be awesome to expose all kids at early ages for the different roles by having people like you show up to these places and having conversations about it and exposing them. And one of the things I was mentioning about the program I run, we ran it before for college kids. What we learned in the process of running it for college kids, that this was a study done 20 years ago, that unfortunately once you expose them to it in college, it takes about a year or two, and then they switch their minds that they don't want to learn about it anymore. Where if you went to high school or middle school, the chance of them taking that path and staying with it just went up, I think, like a 60%. So they still drop people off, but now you got the chance of 60 more percentage of individuals interested in such careers or such opportunities: global trade, entrepreneurship, STEM. And I think these are the same things that we should probably be thinking about women, having them be exposed to board members, being the CEO, and having role model come to the classrooms and come to the communities, but also are in the books that are being taught, right? Mentioning them there by names and having equal ways of when you're talking about a man or a person delivering something, that there is also another person just with the same capabilities that happens to be, that does not look like everyone else. I think that's a powerful message to start in an early stage than having to wait when they're in college or beyond college. And go ahead.
No, yeah, Faris, it's just funny that you said that, because I just bought my granddaughter's turning 2 next month, and I just bought her a series of board books about female painters, sculptors, artists, and entrepreneurs. And I was invited to come read at my 5-year-old grandson's school next month to read. So now I'm like, oh, I know what books I'm going to choose.
That's great. Yeah, and I'd like to see them in the mainstream books too, right? I mean, that's the challenge, that when you open any other book, unfortunately, it's just there's no mention of female. Usually, it's even the language that the books are written are for a man-driven society.
Right. So what a great thing you just brought up. That we can. Those are wonderful ways. I always like to ask, what are the things that we can do today to start making changes just right where we are. And those are great suggestions, and they're doable.
Yeah. Sorry. So I know that Melania and you go ahead, Danae.
Yeah, and I love something that you mentioned, and I totally agree. There's this empowerment of us women helping each other and doing these groups and support groups and having books written about women in different places, in different positions. And I collaborated now with volunteering organizations where you teach girls how to code and how to bring them into the STEM world as well, and which is amazing. But I think it's not enough, because yes, we kind of empower girls, telling them, yes, you can do it, but then what happened to the other part, like the boys, and I love it when these things are being shared, because it also normalizes to the boys that there's a woman there. It's not only girls looking towards and saying, I can do it myself, but then you have the other part, the boys saying, yeah, it's normal to have a women boss. It's normal to have a woman coding. It's normal to have a woman taking decisions. If we keep them off the loop and just focus on how to empower women, now we have super empowered women, but the male part hasn't changed or evolved, So I love the idea of you, Sherri, going to read a story about a great woman in history to boys and girls, so they can also hear about those.
That's great.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Melania.
Yeah. And I would like to add that it's so super powerful to empower women and to visualize these books and to share amazing experiences, but also the male counterpart, how they can also connect with their female side, how also tell men you cannot cry, you cannot do this, or you have to be strong. But that's not right. We have to also connect with the other side, where we teach the boys how to be more feminine, so we can truly build an equal society. So it's like empower women and deconstruct the male role in society.
Cool. Thank you. Sherri, you're going to say something? Didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I'm agreeing. I totally agree. That the normalize, I love the normalize, where it's just a part of the day. It doesn't matter whether you're male or female or whatever. It's just normal.
Great. Well, clearly we can keep you here all day, but I know you have a few things to do in today's in your daily life. And I, of course, wouldn't, would like to make sure that we close it on time. So therefore, we could just ask maybe a question. Knowing what you know today and having gone through your journey today, what would you share with the world today about Women International Celebration Day or month? What would you tell the world? Maybe just, words of leaving us apart. We can start the same order. You want to start, Danae?
Sure. So what would I learn? What did I learn, and what would I share to other women coming this way is don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. So if you don't understand the numbers, say, I don't understand the numbers. Will you explain those to me again? And don't put yourself in a corner, and take some space. Take some space and ask the questions that you need to know in order to take decisions. And don't think that you are not allowed or not empowered enough to take decisions. You're a person, just like anyone else in the room. So own that. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Melania?
Yeah, I love that. I would say just believe in yourself and that you can do whatever you want. So don't put restraints that are only in your head. Just take the leap and fight for what you want. This is the only way, and don't quit. That's also the most important part.
Thank you. Sherri?
So I would agree with everything that's been said, and add that that it's a journey, and if we can break things down into steps, if we think of building a business, or being an entrepreneur, like being a child, learning to walk, learning to talk, that it's a process, and trust that each step that you take is going to build you for the next step. And when we don't know what to do, just get curious. Just ask the question and get curious. It's like, what's my next step? Or how do I put my numbers together? Or how do I get funding? Or whatever it is, because there's days where you just want to run screaming out of the room. But the truth is, if we can just take a deep breath and say, okay, what's my next step? It's always going to present to us, and somebody will show up that will help us move forward.
Cool. Thank you. One thing I learned a long time ago, and it was someone who gave me this advice. He said, you don't have to explain yourself to anyone, and you don't have to tell them what you've done or not done, because if they fail to do their homework to figure out who you are and what you do, then that's a blessing. If they don't want to learn from you or share information from you, maybe it's not worth you investing the time to share with them anything. So that was a great insight. I thought when they share with me, because at the time, I'm like, well, I could help them do this, or I could help them do that. And the reality is, if they're not smart enough to figure out that someone else could help them to do the work better by engaging you, then clearly they're not smart enough to be worthy of your time. So, I love your messages with what you guys shared, and I appreciate you making the time to be here with us, sharing those insights and opening the doors for many more to come. And I'm very humbled to be part of these conversations and honored. Of course, I always tell people, without my mom or my women in my world, my aunts and grandparents and grandmas and things of that nature, and I probably would never be where I'm at. So it's their teaching, it's their insights, it's their support, and it's so nice to hear that there are also now many more organizations supporting women to women, because a lot of times, as you know, if we don't see who we want to be, like, it's harder for us to imagine us being in that position. So this is a great celebration. Thank you all for making time. If you have anything else you'd like to say, I'll leave it an open mic. Otherwise, I'm honored to be here with you. Thank you for being with us. This is Startup Grind. I'm your host, Faris Alami in Detroit. If you'd like to say anything, mic is open. Otherwise, I'll stop the recording.
Thanks, Faris, and thanks everyone for having us here and sharing this moment.
Yeah, and thank you, Faris. You make the world a better place.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you for the invitation. And just to finish that, it's not only that women supporting women, but men supporting women and put them in the places to speak like you just did. So this is awesome. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.